before I begin, I really have to thank all the people sitting around me for bobby pinning this to my hair. It was a tough journey, but we got through it together. Thank you. And this is completely terrifying, of course, just so you guys say. And I'd like to thank Alblin for that wonderful introduction. And I'd also like to thank the 12 or 13 students who actually voted for me to speak here today. There will be little new material. And I'd like to thank the hundreds of others who are realizing with stomach-clenching terror that I'm representing us. You know, as we stand here today in this idyllic place, surrounded by so many people who have shaped our youngish lives, by parents who are either sadly watching us fly away from the final nest they made for us, or depressingly contemplating our return to the nest to the nest that they had hoped to convert to a home office. To the professors, the lovely professors, who've always understood that a due date is more of a feeling than a rule. To the deans, to the administration, to our families, to our friends, I'm reminded of an old axiom. Graduation is least of all about those of us here in the audience who are sweating through our black robes. Sweating ink through them, actually. Unsure of how to deal with everyone we know at once, and wondering if we can do a fifth year if we just forget how to swim. And instead is a celebration of all the people who've helped shape us. That's not really an old axiom. I just didn't want to come off as sappy this early in the speech. But I know beyond a doubt that we absolutely thank you all for helping us to become who we are today. Thank you. Thank you, fellas. Now that we're on the subject, enough about them. Let's talk about us. Looking around at this motley group of individuals that make up the class of 2008, I see a pack of hipsters, slackers, activists, ne'er-do-wells, engineers, and stress-wrinkled workers who bear little similarity to the fresh-faced, hard-bodied idealists who first arrived on this campus almost 4 years ago. We have come a long way, my friends, and I've checked, and it's difficult to go back. But enough preamble, because a story springs to mind that I wrote for this. Behind them, I guess, is the crumb. And if I told you that I once stumbled through it blindfolded, linked inexorably to complete strangers, with no indication of how the night would end, you might think that I had received a proper liberal arts education. In this case, however, I'm talking about the Trust Walk. Remember that? Your whole CA group, with whom you were, of course, friends forever. Descending through darkness, tripping over sticks, joking merrily to cover terror, before our vision was restored to see a bonfire, in what I think is safe to say was one of the last times almost all of us have been at the same place until today. And yesterday, but I forgot that when I was writing the speech. We even all sat in each other's laps, for goodness sake. A fiendish game of Russian roulette that did not go well for me. On the way back from this halcyonic event, socializing madly, still terrified by the specter of a friendless college experience, not understanding that eventually at Swarthmore, you're confused when you don't know who someone is, I put my hand in my pocket and was even more surprised than usual. My key was gone. Now, in June of 2008, we probably would not be bothered by such a thing. But way back when John Kerry was a good plan, I was terrified. I was always going to be the kid who lost his key on the Trust Walk, the complete opposite of the mysterious rebel with a heart of gold image that I had so hoped to embody here. I wanted nothing more than to cower shamefully in my room in a pile of my roommate Dom Lowell's autumn sweaters. But of course I couldn't, because my key was gone. And it never was found. It lies behind me somewhere, tarnished, buried, waiting to be found in 8,000 years by the lizard people. Now, while my key was ruined, my reputation was not. And to my considerable surprise, people continued to get to know me beyond this tragic first impression. And I began to understand the generous spirit of a place that lets you be yourself. This is a metaphor. I mean, of course it is, since this would have been a complete waste of time otherwise, but I couldn't really think of a segue. Now, some of you may recognize the previous vignette, which I once gave with the intention of pointing out how far we had progressed, how we were no longer keyless, how we have obtained ownership of our spatial identity, or something jargony. Well, bad news, I've changed my mind. So, like 5 days ago, 200 of us climbed onto a SEPTA train for a senior week event. And even while we jostled to sit next to our favorites, as passengers heading home wondered if they could survive jumping out the windows to escape, I began to feel a strange Madeline-ish return. We made our way to the bowling alley, blindly following leaders who were not quite aware of where we were going. And as we stumbled over derelict yards and squeezed our collective selves through a filthy alleyway, I realized that we were just doing another trust walk. Just as we had once been led through our future Swarthmore lives, terrified, with no sense of the future and vague confusion about what surrounded us, now, just as we were set to begin anew again, we were similarly, that's what I can't pronounce, but I made it, ushered together in a preview of the next step. And if we handle this next step, as well as we handled this place, I think we'll be all right. I don't want to go on for 20 minutes. But before leaving the stage, I just wanted to acknowledge what an incredible place this has been, and how much I've learned from the people I've shared it with. What is about to be what was, and we'll always have that. But I know with the love between us, we'll also have what's going to be. Thank you.